In a small town near a quiet river, there lived a 12-year-old boy named Arav. Arav was an intelligent and hardworking student, but he had one weakness. He got angry very quickly. Whenever someone said something wrong to him, he shouted back. Whenever things didn't go his way, he felt frustrated. Arav lived with his grandmother, Dadima, who was known in the town for her wisdom and calm nature. She often said, "Anger is like fire, Arav. It burns the person who holds it first." But Arav never paid much attention to her words. One day, Arav's school announced a district-level speech competition. The winner would get a scholarship and a chance to speak on stage in front of many people. Arav was excited. He worked very hard and prepared his speech day and night. However, there was one more boy in his class named Rohan. Rohan was not as good at studies as Arav, but he was friendly and kind. Many students liked him. When the teacher announced that both Arav and Rohan were selected for the final round, Arav felt jealous. He doesn't deserve this, Arav thought angrily.
You know what happens when anger takes the wheel? Everything crashes. And that's exactly what happened to Arav on what started as just another ordinary Tuesday morning. Picture this scene. Arav walks into his classroom, ready to practice his speech for the upcoming competition. He reaches into his bag, pulls out his precious speech notebook, and boom! His heart sinks. The pages are torn, scattered like confetti across his desk. His carefully written words, his hours of preparation, all ruined. Now here's where things get interesting. Instead of taking a breath, instead of thinking clearly, Arav's eyes immediately dart across the room and land on Rohan. Poor Rohan, who's quietly sitting at his desk, completely unaware of the storm heading his way. "You did this, Arav!" He shouts, his voice echoing through the classroom. Every head turns, every conversation stops. The air becomes thick with tension. Rohan's face goes pale, his eyes widen in shock. "I didn't do anything, Arav, I swear," he says, his voice trembling. You can see the hurt in his eyes, the confusion, the desperate need to be believed. But Arav, he's too angry to see any of it. Without a second thought, Arav marches straight to the teacher. He complains loudly, pointing fingers, demanding justice for his torn notebook. The teacher listens, takes notes, and poor Rohan sits there, his eyes filling with tears, watching his reputation crumble over something he never did. That evening, Arav storms into his house, still fuming. He finds his Dadima in the kitchen, humming softly while preparing dinner. She takes one look at his face and knows something is wrong. After hearing the whole story, Dadima doesn't lecture him. Instead, she does something unexpected. She fills a glass with water and stirs in some mud from a plant pot. The water becomes cloudy, murky, impossible to see through. "Try to see your face in this water," she says, gently. Arav looks down. "I can't see anything," he admits, frustrated. Dadima sets the glass aside and waits. Minutes pass. Slowly, very slowly, the mud settles to the bottom. The water becomes clear again. "Now look," she says. Arav peers into the glass and sees his reflection perfectly. Dadima smiles. "When your mind is angry, it is like muddy water. You cannot see the truth clearly. Calmness brings clarity." But Arav, still wrapped up in his anger, dismisses her words. He thinks she's just being overly philosophical. He goes to bed that night, convinced he's right, convinced Rohan is the villain in his story. The next morning brings a plot twist that changes everything. The teacher calls both boys to the office. She's reviewed the CCTV footage from the previous day. And there it is, clear as day. Another student accidentally knocking over Arav's bag, the notebook falling out, getting caught under a chair and tearing as someone unknowingly stepped on it. Rohan was nowhere near the scene. The shame hits Arav like a truck. His stomach drops, his face burns with embarrassment. All those accusations, all that anger, all of Rohan's tears, for absolutely nothing. He realizes he's been the villain in this story all along. Finding Rohan during lunch break becomes the hardest walk of Arav's life. Each step feels heavier than the last. When he finally reaches him, the words come out in a rush. "I'm sorry, I was wrong," Arav says, his voice barely above a whisper. Rohan looks up and instead of anger or resentment, there's something beautiful in his eyes. Understanding, forgiveness. "It's okay, Arav. We all make mistakes," Rohan says with a gentle smile. That moment changes everything for Arav. It's like a light bulb switching on in his mind. He finally understands what Dadi Ma was trying to teach him. Anger doesn't just cloud judgment, it destroys relationships, breaks trust, and steals peace. Fast forward to the day of the competition. Arav stands on that stage, but instead of delivering his prepared speech, he speaks from his heart. He talks about his recent experience, about the lesson he learned the hard way. I learned an important lesson recently. Anger can destroy relationships, trust, and peace. Kindness and patience are real strengths. His words resonate with everyone in the room. They're not just hearing a speech, they're hearing a transformation. Arav wins first prize that day, but more importantly, he wins something far more valuable: control over his own emotions. That evening, as he shows Dadi Ma his trophy, she hugs him tight and whispers, "Remember, my child, the strongest person is not the one who wins fights, but the one who controls himself." From that day forward, Arav chooses kindness over anger, patience over impulse, and understanding over judgment. He discovers that life becomes so much lighter, so much more joyful when you're not carrying the heavy burden of unnecessary anger. And you know what the most beautiful part of this story is? It shows us that our biggest mistakes can become our greatest teachers. Sometimes we need to fall flat on our faces to truly understand what it means to stand tall with grace. Arav's journey reminds us that true strength isn't about being right all the time. It's about having the courage to admit when we are wrong, the wisdom to learn from our mistakes, and the heart to choose love over anger every single time.